Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again today, and welcome to Total War Warhammer 2, The Vampire Coast. So this is a replay of actually the first match I ever played multiplayer with the Vampire Coast. I did jump into a little bit of campaign and a little bit of unit testing beforehand. Actually, was this the first one, or was this the... I think this was actually my second battle. I played 3, and I intend to show them all, because I want to talk about all the different things the Vampire Coast can do. The Vampire Coast is an incredibly versatile faction, and I know that sounds weird to say, because obviously the Vampire Coast is missing some things. But they're... how do I put it? Some people are saying that the Vampire Coast, in their opinion, plays like the Dwarves, which is partially true. And some are saying that the Vampire Coast plays something like the Empire, which is kind of, sort of, partially true. In my opinion, the Vampire Coast actually plays most like the Skaven, but better. And I'll talk about why that is here. We can look at the armies here while we're loading. And we can see that what I brought, I brought, so I'm playing against the Wood Elves, right? So this is the interesting thing about the Wood Elf, the Vampire Coast for me. There's a lot of flexibility. You can bring a lot of different things. So in this army, I brought a chaff front line, with no actual melee infantry, almost. I have a couple of zombie pirate deckhand mobs with polearms on the flanks, which are, of course, anti-large, armor-piercing, very, very good at warding off cavalry for their price. They have an anti-large bonus of 13, which is pretty substantial, higher than clan rats by a significant margin, for example. And it pushes their melee attack up to 27, and of course their damage up to 40 when they're fighting large units, so that's very useful. I have a whole bunch of zombie pirate gunnery mobs, just the ones with pistols, because they do pretty decent damage, especially early on with that extra powder buff active. They do really good missile damage at short range, but it's enough that they can volley off into infantry that are coming after them, or archers, of course. I do have 2 handguns, not really necessary against Wood Elves because they don't have high armor, but very, very good at shooting down flyers and tree men and gunning down things at longer range. Then I have Luther Harkin on his Terrorgeist, another Death Shriek Terrorgeist, and 2 Necrofex Colossi. And the reason I did this was because I thought, well, okay, Wood Elves, I'm probably going to face a lot of skirmishing. They're going to have a lot of long-ranged firepower. So I have these large units, and normally large units would be kind of hard to deal with, right? To protect. But as the Vampire Coast, I have access to all these cheap units. So I have cover from all these angles. I can push units out to drive away skirmishers that are coming after me, while my Necrofex Colossi have longer range by a significant margin than any of the Wood Elf archers. And of course, my Death Shriek Terrorgeist and Luther Harkin both regenerate and fly. So, the Wood Elf army, actually let's stay in slow motion for now, which I can't see any of this at the moment. The Wood Elf army, he has 4 Deepwood Scouts, 2 Way Watchers, so that heavy, heavy armor-piercing missile damage. He has a Glady on an Eagle. That is the Glady, right? Yep, that's the Glady. With Prey of Anathema, Arrow of Kurnos, Eye of Kurnos, and a Life Caster with the usual life spells. I think he actually took a bunch of life spells here. Dwellers Below, Regrowth, Shield of Thorns, Flesh to Stone, Earth Blood, Awakening of the Wood. Yeah, I think that's all the life spells. I think he just didn't bother to take anything off. A unit of Hawk Riders for pretty good missile support. And then in the back here, he's got the Wild Hunters of Kurnos and another Wild Rider with shield hiding in the trees. So, thinking about this match, we're saying, okay, Wood Elves, lots of skirmishing, lots of archers, good in the woods. I can't see any of them until just now, and look at that. This is what I want to do. As soon as I see those Deepwood Scouts, I see them beyond their own range. They can't hit the Necrofex Colossus. They've got these infantry screening them out. And as soon as he sees them, the Necrofex Colossus fires in and does a crap ton of damage. 20 kills with 1 shot. Meanwhile, the Wood Elf archers are wasting their fire on my zombie pirates, and if they push in to try and shoot the Necrofex Colossus, they will be in range of the guns. So they can't move in. They have to stay at range. They have to pick away at my zombies, and them spending their ammunition on that is fine. Meanwhile, I'm dominating the skies, because these Terrorgeists are really, really powerful anti-air combatants. And of course, Luther Harkin can shoot as he moves. So I've dropped Slang Gold on the Spellsinger to stop him from building up too much magic, and I'm shooting at him with my pistol and chasing him away. I'm taking a little bit of fire, but my Terrorgeists regenerate, so it's okay. I'm going to swoop down here on these Way Watchers real quick because they got close to me. They're going to drop a spell on them, it looks like. Yeah, Flesh to Stone to increase their armor. But that's okay, because now I have firepower support from my Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, and even though they've lost a ton of HP, they still have a whole bunch of models, so we're going to dive in, break those Way Watchers off real quick. Over here, we've already routed a unit of Deepwood Scouts that got too close to my Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, and the Wood Elf Skirmishers are just getting ripped apart. Necrofex Colossi still way in the back, just firing into the enemy, racking up kills. My Terrorgeist is getting pretty low, so I'm going to pull him out here. Harkon is back in the air, and he's going to come over and attack the air units, I believe. Now my Terrorgeist is working on getting back up in the air. While these archers have to keep falling back because they can't come within range of the guns. The guns are just too powerful. I got a breath attack on those Way Watchers, scored a few kills with Luther. I need to be redirecting my artillery fire at the moment because I'm still firing at them, but I'm moving my guns over to shoot at the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. Now, over here we've got an Earthblood going down, so I'm just going to... Luther Harkin is just going to kind of pull out. Doesn't need to be staying in there. Meanwhile, the artillery continues to just rip away at these Deepwood Scouts. Artillery is really good at killing these guys, particularly the Necrofex Colossi, because, as you may notice, they fire 4 shots. And each shot does a little bit less damage than a standard cannonball, I believe. Yeah, it does less damage than a standard cannonball by a significant amount, but because they fire 4 shots, they carve 4 individual paths through the unit, which means they're extremely good at killing infantry and cavalry. See over here, we just kind of clipped the Wild Hunters of Kurnos with a shot earlier, and still killed 3 of them. So getting excellent value there. The only damage I'm really taking is, I've taken a little bit of damage on one of my Terrorgeists, and I've taken damage to zombies, but I don't care about zombies. These, the Hawk Riders are coming in, and the Wild Riders are charging. So the Wild Riders charge into my gunnery mob, that's fine, they're cheap. These Wild Riders charge into this gunnery mob, and they're about to get hit by the zombie deckhands. Meanwhile, these Hawk Riders are in the wrong neighborhood, getting just absolutely gunned down, and now they're gone forever, because the Deathstreak Terrorgeist is going to chase him off. And meanwhile, I'm just still pursuing, pushing these guys back, chipping some damage to the Spellsinger of Life. The Wild Hunters of Kurnos are getting shot down. These Wild Riders are getting shot down. We get a nice breath attack. Does get a little bit of friendly fire, but once again, who cares? The Zombie Pirate Deckhands are doing damage to the Wild Hunters. These infantry over here are pushing forward, taking up the arrow fire. This guy really should be pushing in to try and get at my Terrorgeist while I'm distracted. And Luther Harkin is going to dive down, drive off the Wild Hunters, and now we're getting gunfire into the Spellsinger of Life, who's already losing melee, and now is also getting just absolutely shot to pieces. Earthblood, not going to save him. Up here, Harkon is in combat, and that's fine. With the Hornswaggle active and All Hands Hoy, he is going to tear this Glade Lord apart. And so I'm fine with him being there. I'm just going to leave him there. In the back, my Necrofex Colossi, firing away, driving off the Spellsinger. 75 kills on this one from firing into the archers. This one only has 17 kills because he's been firing at tougher targets. But you can see the Glade Lord is now pulling away from Luther, who is sitting there. I think I was trying to get a breath attack off with him, and it wasn't really going for some reason. Oh, big cannon hit there. Over here, these units, I'm not even paying attention to them at this point, to be honest, because I'm focused over here. So in a minute, I should start to pull these guys in this way. Luther Harkin's taking a lot of damage, so I think I am going to pull him away, but he's able to do some decent work just by chipping away with that gunfire, even when he's not in melee. And my second Terrorgeist is now coming back. Remember, these guys do regenerate, so we actually managed to terrify the Glade Lord. Luther Harkin's going to pull back just to be sure that he can't be shot to pieces. And the Necrofex Colossi are just really doing work. Look at this. Yep, that's the way it goes. Especially when these units end up stacked on top of each other. Those Colossi can really, really tear them apart. Oh, and a nice breath attack. So the archers are getting absolutely wasted at this point. And it's pretty much all over but the crying now. These units are moving in. We've got the guns flanking from the side. The Lifecaster is still alive. The Lord has come back but is being pursued by my Deathstreak Terrorgeist, who he can't beat in melee. She has better melee attack for sure, but even so, all that armor-piercing damage. The archers are focusing fire on the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, which is, fair. I understand why it's happening, but really it's not what they need to be shooting at in order to win this. In order to win this, they need to be shooting at the Necrofex Colossi, who have managed to expend almost all of their ammunition, rack up very significant value. Got a valiant cavalry charge into the zombie pirate gunnery mob with handguns, but they are just standing their ground. The Wild Hunters are getting shot from behind, and the polearms and Luther Harkon are coming in. Harkon is very, very low. If those archers made a concerted push right now, I think they could probably have taken him out at this point, and I realized it very quickly and started to pull him back. But at this point, there just wasn't enough to do it. They were focusing on this Terrorgeist, who was fighting the Spellsinger, and at this point, there's just not really enough left to change the outcome of the battle. Those Deepwood Scouts are once again all stacked up on top of each other. Here come the cannons. And boom. So you can see there that those multiple cannonballs really do magnify the work that it can do against infantry. So you went up to 78 kills right there. My one Terrorgeist is falling back, but the other is pushing in against the Spellsinger. This guy has one volley left, but he's in melee with the Way Watchers. We're shooting at the Glade Lord and pushing in our troops on this side once again, while the Lifecaster is very much in the wrong neighborhood. Slangold, Hornswaggled, and about to get ripped to shreds by Luther and his buddy. Eagle's trying to get away, but too late. Down they go. The last vestiges of the infantry are pulling forward, and my opponent concedes defeat as his army begins to break. So, that's one style that the Vampire Coast can do, and they can do it very well. Now, obviously, I'm not a fantastic Total War Warhammer 2 player. If you want really, really high-level gameplay, watch Turin. Turin's fantastic. Watch Milk and Cookies Total War. Indie Pride is very good. Watch Heir of Carthage. Heir of Carthage is pretty good at some factions. He's very, very good at dwarves. I'm good at making plans. I'm not very good at micro, and you can see there were plenty of micro mistakes during that game, but this was won pretty much on the army selection screen when I correctly figured that he was going to go real heavy skirmish. And in this case, it was actually heavier than even I had anticipated. He had no infantry whatsoever. A couple of Eternal Guard might have been very useful, but this is one style. This is the Monster Mash. I have 4 very large, very powerful, monstrous units in this army. 2 that can basically dominate the skies against all but very, very heavy commitment, and 2 that are mobile artillery platforms, very good at shredding infantry and cavalry, who also have a secondary monstrous melee function, because they actually do okay. Not fantastic, but they do pretty okay in melee. And then my infantry, very cheap, I don't care if it dies. These zombie pirate gunnery mobs exist to absorb fire and to return fire. The handguns are more valuable, but you can see, they chevroned up. I put 1 chevron on each of these guys. These guys actually gained a chevron with only 6 kills, which is pretty impressive. And then the polearms just exist to kind of ward off cavalry. So let's look at another battle. This, I think, was the actual first one I did. This was me versus the Dark Elves, and this kind of showcases a little bit more of the firepower of the Vampire Coast, because in this match, I brought Queen Bess. And Queen Bess is a monstrous power on the battlefield. So I have a few more polearms. I brought Celestra Direfin, a gunnery white to give extra ammo, which I think is very useful for Queen Bess. A couple of deck gunners, along with hand gunners. Deck gunners are long range, sort of like Ushabti Great Bows, but a lot more fragile, and there's more of them. I also brought the deck droppers, so flying, armor-piercing, missile cavalry, very fast, hit very hard, very, very flimsy, and 1 unit of fell bats, standard bats, to screen for them. And I brought the Lamprey's Revenge, the Rotting Promethean gunnery mob regiment of renown who regenerate, which makes them very, very good. These guys are an impressive unit, because that regeneration on top of their massive armor and their high melee stats, including very high melee defense, makes them incredibly tough to take down. Against Dark Elves, a little bit more niche of a pick, since armor-piercing missile units can deal with them, but they've got the shotguns on their back, so in melee, they do fantastic. You can see my deployment here. I've actually got my flank in the river, since my units get a bonus in water, because they are aquatic. I have polearms and gunnery mobs up front, handguns behind, deck gunners spaced out here, the gunnery white standing next to Queen Bess. The gunnery white has, I've taken away the cackle fruit, I think, but he's got enchanted ballistics. He's got more powder. This is the important one. This guy primarily exists to give more ammunition to Queen Bess, because Queen Bess does run out of ammo. And then over here I've got my flyers deployed. We have a couple of harpies facing off against them. And we have Slaaneish's Harvesters. These are the guys whose job is to swoop in on my artillery and shut it down. Likewise, the Harpies. In the front, meanwhile, we've got Black Art Corsairs on each side, which are practically overkill against Vampire Coast Infantry. Front line of Bleak Swords. More Bleak Swords over here. And then one, Blades of the Blood Queen, the Executioners of Harganeth Regiment of Renown. Plus, Morathi on foot. Interesting choice. Don't see all that too often. Wand of the Caridon, so she can blast people with it. Deadly Onslaught, Soul Stealer, Power of Darkness, Heartrender of the Dark Sword, and Enchanting Beauty, plus Greater Arcane Conduit. And a Cainite Assassin. So she's got an Assassin unit coming in against me. I'm not sure why exactly. Assassin's Trophy is a pretty good ability, as is Web of Shadows for that matter, so okay, fair enough. And a War Hydra. So, one powerful monster, one powerful infantry, front line of high-quality chaff, a couple of Black Art Corsairs, and over here, flying cavalry. So I saw this happen instantly. Instantly, I knew I had to take out Slaaneish's Harvesters. So we got those first few volleys. Those first few volleys are devastating from the Vampire Coast. With that extra powder they have, they do work. Real work. So my deck droppers are just focused on gunning down those Slaaneish's Harvesters as much as they can. The bats locked up one unit of Harpies briefly. Let me get a few more shots off, but the Harpies are going to catch me. Meanwhile, over here, Queen Bess is firing, and look at this blob. Oh, baby. Oh, tasty. That was pretty good. A number of kills for Queen Bess already. And she continues to fire. So the Slaaneish's Harvesters back here are down to half health already. And boom! Blades of the Blood Queen well below half health. Plus this unit of Bleak Swords is taken down. And now my guns, including the deck gunners, are focused on Slaaneish's Harvesters and ripping them to pieces. This is the power of the Vampire Coast firepower. It is brutal. Those deck gunners, that long range they've got, whoo! It is impressive. So Slaaneish's Harvesters going down rapidly. Deck gunners are going to pursue them a little bit. My deck droppers are trying to flee, but they're not going to get away at this point. At this point, they're offline. And the deck gunners are now shifting targets to fire at the Blades of the Blood Queen. Meanwhile, we've got Queen Bess still lobbing into this blob. And they're still a little bit blobbed up, and they're still going to get punished for it. Yep, there they go. Whew. Queen Bess, 83 kills. 83. Meanwhile, my guns here are volleying into the Harpies as the enemy line closes. Silostra has taken quite a bit of damage from magical abilities, and she's going to take more. Ouch. And she summoned up her Damned Knights Errant, which, to be fair, I kind of forgot about during this battle. So, the enemy has flanked me. They've gotten onto my guns. They're pushing in the War Hydra. But Queen Bess continues to fire. And boom. That unit's broken. So, my deck gunners are kind of running because they're getting attacked by the Harpies. But the Harpies are getting shot in the back by the zombie pirates. Over here, the Damned Knights Errant charge directly into Slaaneish's Harvesters, and fortunately they have just enough oomph to actually finish it off. Slaaneish's Harvesters' physical resistance does not help against their magical attacks, and so they do go down. I had the Lamprey's Revenge out here, but they dodged them, and then I kind of got busy trying to deal with this whole mess, because it is a mess, don't get me wrong. The Hydra is plowing into the middle of my zombies with handguns. We've got the Commander up in there. Silostra is almost dead. She's trying to cast just a couple more spells before she goes down. Got some good gunfire going into the Harpies, and Queen Bess continues to fire, having not been shot down yet, and oh, that was messy. So we've summoned a unit of Rotting Prometheans, which are charging in to lock up that infantry. My Gunnery White is still back here, about to give Queen Bess some more ammo. On this side, these units have finished off their opponents and are starting to push forward. Over here, my Polearm mob is giving a very good account of itself because it's in the water, and so has a little bit of a bonus there. Meanwhile, Queen Bess is about to come under attack, but watch. Notice, Queen Bess, since they're zombies, they don't rout. And even when they get under attack like that, also, by the way, close fire from Queen Bess, very impressive. Here, we drop a Vangeist's Revenge, and look at what this does to these Black Art Corsairs. Holy crap. Vangeist's Revenge is a good spell, guys. I like it. Silostra, meanwhile, is just kind of riding around doing the business. The Damned Knight Errants are in those Harpies, trying to get rid of them. The enemy are mostly routing off, except for this War Hydra, who has the Song of Enthrallment on him. And if we take a look at the battlefield now, my front line is mainly collapsed on this side. Come here, you. On this side, the Dark Elves have it all their own way, but the backline penetration has been routed off. Queen Bess still has some ammunition. My Gunnery Wight is sniping at the Canine Assassin, probably about to get taken out. Over here, Morathi is enmeshed, finishing off the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs. My deck gunners are dead, but my summoned Rotting Prometheans have broken off some of the enemy infantry, and some of the rest of the enemy infantry is tangled up fighting them, including the elites. Over here, Zombie Pirate Deckhands with polearms, still hanging on. My Lord is dead. Silostra just went the way of all the earth. In the background, however, the Harpies are fleeing. On this side, I have a completely free Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, and I have the Lamprey's Revenge, who have just finished breaking off these Bleak Swords, and are now sweeping around the flank in conjunction with these polearms. So while this flank is gone, this flank is completely under my control. And these units are now just coming right down the pipe to put pressure on the rest of the enemy force here. He's going to drop a bolt onto the Lamprey's Revenge, but it doesn't do much damage to them, to be honest. Morathi, meanwhile, is moving over to intercept, and he's pulling away from Queen Bess because he hasn't managed to kill it. Since it's on guard mode, it's still firing, and now my handguns are firing into the War Hydra, while Queen Bess rotates to line up on these Black Ark Corsairs who are running away. He realized his mistake, pulled the War Hydra back as soon as he could, but he let me get off that shot. Missed that time. But once again, they don't rout. They don't ever rout. They will stand here and keep shooting, even when they're under melee attack. 261 kills on Queen Bess, and we are not finished yet. The Rotting Prometheans are disintegrating, but they're rushing over to try and do the damage to the War Hydra. Oh, there go the Black Ark Corsairs. That pretty much put paid to him. Zombie Pirate Deckhands are crumbling, but they've driven off the enemy infantry for now. The last of my Prometheans are actually going to die just short of the War Hydra. My Gunnery Wight is also dead, but once again, Queen Bess just breaking off the enemy. These Harpies have attacked the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, but it doesn't matter because, once again, they're on guard mode. They're going to keep shooting, except for the ones that are actively engaged in melee. So they are actually slowly wearing this War Hydra down, and they're bringing down its healing cap fairly quickly. Meanwhile, Queen Bess is still online. They can't stop the Bess. We have finally managed to kill Morathi, surrounding her with the Lamprey's Revenge and various polearms. Got a good breath attack in there, but it is too little, too late. Queen Bess is just finishing off the enemy, murdering the survivors as they flee. The War Hydra is taking full volleys to the back because the Hydras have broken off once again and for good this time. And Queen Bess is just determined to spend that last of her ammunition well. There you go. You don't get to see the explosion underwater, unfortunately, but she thoroughly cracked those Bleak Swords. The Blades of the Blood Queen were destroyed before they ever entered combat. The 4 survivors are running for the hills, and the Lamprey's Revenge are still at pretty much full health because of that regeneration. So they're rolling in to take care of the Canine Assassin. We've still got guns on the War Hydra, the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mob, and the shotguns are pouring in fire on the War Hydra. And it will be... it can't possibly survive this. There we go. Give him a volley, lads. The War Hydra is breaking off, and with the Lamprey's Revenge in hot pursuit. Over here, this Canine Assassin is slowly cutting his way through my Zombie Pirate Deckhands, but it doesn't matter at this point. The guns are going to finish off the Hydra while the Lamprey's Revenge charge over here to take care of the Canine Assassin, and that is going to be the battle, I believe. It might take a few more seconds, but we can just fast forward there. So, this was a very different style. This was artillery. My army was entirely focused around Queen Bess. I had the deck gunners to try and kill fast-moving, important targets. I had the deck droppers for about the same reason. Everything else was just defensive. I just took Silostra because I wanted to play with Silostra, and the Vangeist's Revenge and her Rotting Promethean summon did come in very handy. The Lord of the Deep, super, super valuable. That summon and Vangeist's Revenge is a really powerful damage spell. It does armor-piercing damage, too. So, very, very useful. Short-ranged, but you can use it to pretty much wipe a unit off the map very, very quickly. The Gunnery Wight, handy. Kept Queen Bess firing to get that crazy, crazy kill count. But yeah, all of this stuff was just kind of keeping things off of Queen Bess. All of this stuff was killing things that are coming after Queen Bess, and then the Lamprey's Revenge are just a great, solid, tanky unit. You just throw them in the front line. As long as the enemy doesn't have a whole lot of armor-piercing missiles, they're going to do fine. But Queen Bess, Queen Bess was the star of the show there. 317 kills. Half of the total losses were inflicted by Queen Bess. That is insane. And well worth the 1600. Hell, it was worth the gunnery white even. So, I really like the Vampire Coast. They've got a lot of flexibility. And like I said, they play like the Skaven do. The Skaven have this same quality where they have this chaff front line and the heavy hitters behind or intermixed throughout, trading crossfire, focusing targets on certain enemy units and gooning out specific key parts of the enemy, like the Blades of the Blood Queen. The Blades of the Blood Queen barely made it to combat. That's why they only got 35 kills. For a unit that expensive, that's criminal. But they sucked up 3 or 4 direct hits from Queen Bess, and they were ruined by the time they arrived. The War Hydra made it in, but you can't shut down zombies. You have to actually kill them, and there wasn't enough free to do the killing by the time this army reached combat. So in any case, both very good games. I had a third one where I played against Skaven. Actually, I am going to show that one too. I know this video is getting a little bit long, but this shows off a third playstyle of the Vampire Coast. People say the Vampire Coast doesn't have mobility. That is a lie. The Vampire Coast absolutely has mobility. It has a lot more mobility than the Skaven, and in that way are better at this same defensive, chaff-fronted playstyle than the Skaven are, specifically because the Vampire Coast has flyers. The Vampire Coast has stalking heavy hitter units. I mean, the Skaven have stalkers too, but they don't hit nearly as hard as Mournguls. And the Vampire Coast is competitive with the Skaven in the summon game, which is what we're going to show off here. We have Count Noctilus, who has Roth's Moondial, and also has the summoning spell from the Lord of the Deep, the Drowned Dead. So Count Noctilus, by himself, by his lonesome, is capable of dropping 6 unit summons, 4 of which can be powder units, because when you overcast this spell, it summons the pistol version, the Zombie Pirate Gunnery Mob. We've just got Count Noctilus on foot. We've got 1 unit of deck gunners. We've got some handguns. I love the handgun zombies. They're great. Some polearms, and a mix of deckhand mobs and gunnery mobs. And then over here, we've got a Mourngul Haunter and a unit of Mournguls off on a commando mission to the front lines. And over here, we have some deck droppers with handguns, and once again, the Lamprey's Revenge. They're just such a solid unit. The enemy has forward deployed a whole bunch of slingers, which is a good call. He's got Night Runners with slings all up in the front, so he's trying to get that sling damage on my back line. Unfortunately, I start to pressure him immediately. My cannon is turned onto the Rat Ogres, doing some good damage. The Mournguls see the Rat Ogres, and they're like, we don't really want a piece of that. We'd rather get into the infantry. So they're pulling in to chase the slingers. Then I see the Rat Ogres coming in, and we're starting to pull back. Meanwhile, over here, these deck droppers are just flying over the pit to go shoot these Rat Ogres, since there's nothing to stop them. And the Lamprey's Revenge charging straight in. There's nothing on the field that can contest with the Lamprey's Revenge. Up here, the Mournguls, some Zombie Pirate deckhands, and some guns. These guns did take a lot of work, but they're actually healing. Why are they healing? Why are they healing? Oh, they're healing from the Lore of Vampires special ability, because Noctilus just spawned 2 units. He spawned a Zombie Pirate deckhand mob to go over here, since these guys are getting through the flank, and he spawned a gunnery mob, who are now shooting into... yeah, they're shooting over this way. They're shooting into the Rat Ogres and into these Clan Rats. So 1 unit of Rat Ogres already broken off. Another unit of Rat Ogres about to be broken. The Mournguls down to half health, but they still have 11 models, and they're still regenerating, despite being under withering fire from a unit of Poison Wind Globadiers. Over here, Wraithstorm. So here, this is where the most interesting part of the battle occurs, because here... we've got the Lamprey's Revenge fighting the Rat Ogres, doing a really good job. They've got a Wither dropped on them, and pretty soon... Where is he? Because Skrulk dives into that fight. Yeah, there he is. Skrulk has charged into the Zombie Pirate deckhand mob, along with his Warlock Engineer buddy. So I see that, and I go, okay. Target all guns on Skrulk. So the deck gunners are currently firing back there into the Rat Ogres, but they're about to shift targets and go after Skrulk. We're going to get them on Skrulk. We're going to get the cannons on Skrulk. We're going to get the handguns on Skrulk. We're going to free up these guns and get them on Skrulk. These guns right here are actually freed up right now. They were just watching to make sure the Rat Ogres didn't come back. But I'm going to get some of them turned around to fire on Skrulk. Skrulk is just standing back there. Noctilus is out here in the middle, doing nothing at the moment, just saving up his Winds of Magic to drop some more fat summons. We've already got some going in, but there's the cannon on Skrulk, the guns are on Skrulk. These summoned clan rats are about to get absolutely gunned down as they charge. Yep, there we go. That's the gunnery. We've got some more zombie pirate deckhand gunnery mobs spawned as Noctilus charges into this combat. In the back, Morgul's just absolutely wreaking havoc. They've taken a ton of damage, but they're just regenerating through it since they're in combat. The Haunter is at full health. The deck droppers have butchered these rat ogres and the poison wind globadiers, and the Lamprey's Revenge have muscled right through the opposition of the rat ogres to push on towards the back line. Skrulk is down to half health from the concentrated fire, primarily, I think, from the deck gunners. Deck gunners are very, very good at doing damage to lone targets. And Skrulk is now broken off, and actually he's trying to route through my army, which is a very poor decision for him because he's routing into handguns. The Warlock Engineer is coming back. He's dropping some juicy Warp Lightning. That got some damage done, but zombies have a surprising amount of hit points. So Lord Skrulk down to 800 HP, really, really suffering. In the back, his units are trying to rally, but he's got the Morgul's back there still, and the Morgul Haunter just finished chasing somebody off the map. Meanwhile, Noctilus, fat and happy, almost full health, and with yet another Arcane Conduit going off. And now the enemies start to shatter, and my opponent leaves the game. Skaven, I think, have a very, very rough matchup against the Vampire Coast because all of your units cause fear. So you noticed the Skaven army was just being driven back that whole time. They could not handle fighting my units because my units cause fear. So even though stats-wise, clan rats can deal with zombie pirate deckhands, they actually can't win that fight because the fear gets to them and their low morale hurts them and they run, especially when they're also under fire the whole time. The deck gunners and the deck droppers, very, very solid units. Honestly, deck droppers are the gold standard now for missile cavalry, for flying missile cavalry, that is. They're fragile, you have to babysit them, but they do work if they are not stopped. Lamprey's Revenge, so solid. Incredibly solid. They are a great unit. I brought the Carronade because I was worried about rat ogres or possibly hell pit abominations, and it worked. It paid its dues. It did some damage. It didn't get a whole lot of kills because it was mainly shooting at single targets, but it put good damage on Skrulk and it put good damage on rat ogres. The deck gunners, once again, they're like the deck droppers. You gotta babysit them, but they're really, really powerful when they pay off. And Count Noctilus was just providing my whole front line. He summoned, I think, 5 units over the course of the game, so yeah, literally the same as my front line. And he was really holding it down in the middle there. Now, if Skrulk had come after him aggressively and tried to goon him out, not sure what would have happened there. Noctilus can't beat Skrulk one-on-one, but what he can do is summon pistols directly behind Skrulk and have them unload at point-blank range while they're fighting, and that might be enough to do it. Now, if Skrulk had brought 2 assassin buddies, that would have shifted the fight decisively against him since the Morgul Haunter was elsewhere. But those Morguls and Morgul Haunter also, on their commando mission in the back lines, the main value they were giving was they just caused terror. Everyone was running from them. You can see they hardly got any kills because everyone was running from them, and they were just driving people off the edge of the map constantly. So, there you go. 3 Vampire Coast playstyles. You've got the Swarm, with Noctilus or somebody just spamming summons in the front line. You've got the artillery centered around Queen Bess, and you've got the Monster Mash with the big critters and Luther Harkon using his anti-magic to shut down mages and flying around cackling and causing havoc. And there's more. The Vampire Coasts are incredibly flexible. They've got mobility in the form of flyers. They've got great artillery. They've got solid, cheap chaff infantry. They've got the depth guard. I haven't even used the depth guard. I've done a little bit of testing with them, but I have not even played with them. I don't think you really need them, personally. There are situations where you might want them. There are matchups where if you're expecting a whole lot of sort of light to medium infantry, yeah, depth guard could definitely be useful to hold the front line. But overall, I just really like the zombies, man. They're cheap, they're cheerful, they do the job. They're chaffy, they die so that others may live, or relive, or unlive, or you know what I mean. But I'm impressed. The Vampire Coast is definitely counterable. I'm not sure that going wide with ranged units like this really does it. I think if you want to try to overwhelm the Vampire Coast, A, it's hard to do to count Noctilus because he has the extra summons, and B, I think you have to bring a lot of melee infantry. But, yeah, they can skirmish, they can counter-skirmish, they can spam infantry in the front line. They've got artillery, they've got flyers, they've got it all. I mean, about the only thing you could even want to add to this roster would be Blood Knights. And if they had Blood Knights, they'd be crazy broken. But in any case, I think this video has gone on long enough. There will be more Vampire Coast coming in the near future. I really enjoy them. I'm having fun with the game. I'm gonna try the good old triple or quadruple Necrofex Colossus strategy sometime soon. And I'm gonna experiment with some of their other units and see if I can figure out what's good, what's bad, what's in between. But in general, I think the Vampire Coast is in a really solid place. They're very competitive with any of the other factions in the game. And I think they can do a lot. And that's their main asset. They can counterpick extremely effectively. About the only thing you can count on when you're fighting Vampire Coast is they're going to have some zombies in the front line. Zombie handguns, definitely going to be a staple. Deck droppers, very useful in most matchups. Probably not all matchups. Archers shred them. But most matchups are very useful. Rotting Prometheans, good. I would go with Rotting Promethean gunnery mobs. I think they're a little bit more useful. They kill a little bit quicker in combat. And deck gunners, very solid. So that's all I got for now. But we will develop our tactics as time goes on, as I learn the Vampire Coast a little bit better. In any case, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you thought it was too long-winded, tell me in the comments. If you have any ideas or any requests of things you would like to see me test or try out, also leave a comment for me, and I will endeavor to do that for you. So in any case, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.